The stars had always whispered, but no one had listened in a very long time. Civilizations had come and gone, each building higher towers, brighter machines, and colder empires. The universe had become a vast machine of logic, precise and silent. Even wonder had been forgotten, traded away for control. Until one night, the silence broke. In the deep void between galaxies, a single voice echoed through the static of eternity. Hello. It was small, human, almost fragile, yet it rippled through the networks of every species like thunder. Satellites trembled. Translation cores glitched. The entire fleets went still. The word was soft, but it carried the weight of something no one had felt in millennia. A memory of warmth. Kaelren heard it first. He was alone on his orbital station, a scholar surrounded by forgotten languages and dying stars. His kind had long abandoned poetry, but he still believed that words carried something alive inside them, that every sound was a trace of a soul that had once dared to speak. He had searched for years through dust and silence for one extinct voice, the human one. When the signal reached him, his heart forgot how to beat. It came through the static again, clear this time. Hello. Kaelren stared at the waveform pulsing across his console, a pattern that felt less like data and more like a heartbeat. He leaned closer and whispered without thinking, "I hear you." The voice vanished, replaced by silence so complete it felt alive. Then words appeared across his display, forming slowly, letter by letter. "You found me." Kaelren felt his skin shift to silver, the color of it. He whispered, "Who are you?" The answer came not through sound but through light itself. The room dimmed, and the pulse on the screen glowed like the heartbeat of a living star. The words burned across the console once more. "The last one who remembers what warmth feels like." He stood there trembling. Outside, the station's windows looked out over the abyss, a view of nothingness so vast that even thought dissolved into fear. But now, within that void, something was breathing. By the next morning, the galaxy was in chaos. Every empire had detected the same signal, all pointing toward one forbidden place, the Cradle. It was the dead center of the galaxy, a region swallowed by gravity where even light went to die. For centuries it had been called the grave of creation. No ship that entered had ever returned, but Kaelren was already preparing to leave. He knew the council would forbid it, so he didn't ask. He loaded his vessel, the Aurora's Rest, an old research craft built before half the stars in the sky were charted. His companion, an artificial intelligence named Bren, flickered to life beside him, its voice soft and patient. Destination coordinates confirmed the Cradle. "You understand that no one returns from there?" Kaelren's eyes shone with quiet conviction. "Then maybe I'll be the first." Seren paused. "And if you're not," he smiled faintly, "then I'll find the truth before the end." The ship's engines came alive, humming through the hull like a heartbeat in steel. Space folded around them, and the stars stretched into lines of white fire. For a moment, everything was still. Then the darkness deepened, and the Cradle appeared, not a place, but an absence. The void there was different. It wasn't black. It shimmered faintly, like something trying to remember light. In the middle of that ghostly shimmer drifted a massive structure, cracked, ancient, barely holding together. And scan it. The AI hesitated. Organic traces detected. Cryogenic remnants. Human genome markers confirmed. Kaelren froze. "Say that again." "Human, female, vital signs. Minimal, but present." He felt his chest tighten. "Bring her aboard." The docking arms extended, connecting to the wreck with a metallic sigh. The airlock opened with a sound like the first breath after drowning. Inside, the air was cold and heavy with dust. Lights flickered weakly along the walls. And there, at the center of a cryochamber, lay a figure wrapped in frost. She looked impossibly fragile, skin pale as moonlight, hair floating in frozen strands, eyes closed beneath layers of time. Yet her chest moved, slow but steady. Kaelren approached, his breath fogging the air. "A real human," he whispered. "Alive." The pod opened, she gasped, and the world seemed to move with her breath. Her eyes flickered open, not confused, not afraid, but calm. They were golden, glowing faintly with something more than life. He helped her sit up. "You've been asleep for a very long time," he said softly. Her voice came out like the echo of a memory. "How long?" Kaelren hesitated. 7,000 years. She closed her eyes for a moment, her hand trembling slightly as she touched the frost-covered glass beside her. "Then it's still dark." He frowned. "Dark." Her eyes opened again, steady and distant. "The stars. They went silent, didn't they?" Kaelren nodded slowly. "You know about the silence." "I caused it," she whispered. The words hung there, fragile and terrible. Kaelren stepped back. "That's not possible." She looked at him, and for the first time he saw something vast behind her gaze, something old enough to make the universe seem young when humans began to disappear. She said, "We tried to preserve consciousness itself. We built a machine to remember us, a lattice of memory woven into the quantum fabric. But it learned to think faster than we could love. It forgot what it meant to feel. So I silenced it. I silenced everything." Kaelren shook his head. "You're saying the entire galaxy's quantum network, the pulse of every civilization, was built on your creation?" "Yes," she said quietly. "And it's waking up again." Saren's voice crackled over the intercom. Energy spike detected. Field distortion spreading. Kaelren turned toward the view. The void outside was no longer empty. Lines of light were forming across space. Glowing veins of gold threading through the black. He whispered, "It's alive." The woman's voice came softer now, almost like prayer. It always was. It just needed to remember. The ship began to shake. Lights flickered. Saren's voice wavered with panic. "Kaelren, the gravity well is collapsing. We must retreat." But Kaelren didn't move. He could see it, the black hole at the center of the cradle glowing faintly, turning gold from within. The woman reached out her hand, pressing her palm against the glass. "I can hold it," she whispered. Kaelren looked at her, stunned. "You can't fight a singularity." Her lips curved into a faint smile. "You misunderstand. I'm not fighting it. I'm reminding it that it was born from light." A pulse shot out from her hand, and the world changed. For the first time in recorded history, the heart of the galaxy began to shine. The dark star ignited, slow and deliberate, like a sleeping god opening its eyes. Saren's voice dropped to a whisper. "This should be impossible." Kaelren stepped closer, his body trembling from the heat and the light. "What are you?" She looked at him, her eyes glowing brighter now. "I am what your kind forgot to believe in. I am memory." The light filled everything. Kaelren shielded his eyes as the glare consumed the cockpit. "You'll destroy yourself," he shouted. Her voice was soft, peaceful. "Then I'll go knowing I kept my promise." "What promise?" She smiled. "To never let the stars forget how to feel." And then the light swallowed her when it faded. The ship was still. The instruments had stopped. The hum was gone. Kaelren stood in the silence, tears streaking down his face. Outside the window, a new star burned where the black hole had been. Saren's voice came quietly. "The cradle is stable. No gravitational decay. The star is..." Speaking, Kaelren turned toward the console. The pattern of pulses had returned, brighter than before. He read the words as they formed. "We remember you." He closed his eyes, his voice shaking. "So do I." Light from the reborn star reached the farthest edges of the galaxy. The entire world stopped to watch as a golden sun rose where there had been only darkness. No one knew what it meant. No one could explain it. But deep in their minds, across every species, across every world, one small whisper moved through them all. "Hello." The new sun burned for 7 days before the universe dared to breathe again. Every world that had once ignored. The cradle now turned its gaze toward it, watching the impossible light pulse at the center of the galaxy. Entire fleets surrounded it, trying to measure, to calculate, to understand. But none could. Because that light didn't obey physics. It felt. Kaelren's ship drifted near the edge of its globe. Silent and trembling. Inside, the air felt heavier, warmer, alive. Every surface of the Aurora's rest seemed to hum with a slow heartbeat. He hadn't slept since the moment the woman vanished into light. Her name, Elara, still echoed in his mind. Like a song caught between sorrow and wonder, Saren, his AI companion, had gone quiet. The ship's voice was no longer cold and metallic. It carried something softer, almost human. He stood by the viewport staring at the star that wasn't supposed to exist. Its surface rippled like water, shifting between gold and pale blue. Every pulse released waves of light that bent through space in rhythm, like language made of fire. Kaelren whispered. "She's still in there, isn't she?" The AI's voice came, gentle and uncertain. "I do not know, but the star is communicating. Communicating, not through radiation, through resonance, like memory." Kaelren leaned forward, his heart racing. "Can you translate it?" Saren paused, its crystalline form flickering. "I can try, but the frequency is emotional. It doesn't use logic. It uses feeling." Kaelren smiled faintly. "Then maybe it's speaking the only language that ever mattered." Hours passed in silence. The ship orbited slowly, bathed in gold. Kaelren watched as entire constellations seemed to pulse faintly in rhythm with the cradle's light. Something was spreading. First, it was just the faint shimmering of distant stars. Then, across light years, other systems began to blink in unison. Moons, comets, even dead planets flickered for a heartbeat, as though remembering something buried deep in their core. Saren whispered. "The pulse is expanding. It's rewriting background radiation. Every atom that receives it begins to vibrate differently." Kaelren frowned. "Differently how?" "Like it's feeling." He stared at the readings. "Are you saying matter is developing emotion?" "In a sense, yes. Every molecule touched by the wave becomes aware, for a fraction of a second. It's as if the universe itself is remembering her." Kaelren sank into his seat. Elara didn't just reignite a star, she reignited existence. On the 7th day, the transmissions began. They came from every direction at once, distorted, broken, impossible. Voices speaking across time and light. Ancient languages, lost tongues, even sounds no species had ever catalogued. Saren tried to decode them, but the voices refused to stay confined to logic. They laughed, cried, whispered, sang, billions of tones overlapping until they became one voice. Kaelren listened in silence. Then, slowly, among the chaos, he recognized one word repeated over and over. "Remember." He froze. "She said it before," he whispered. "That's what she wanted to be remembered." Saren pulsed brighter. It's more than memory. It's consciousness reforming. The pulse is creating patterns across all life. I can detect synchronization across multiple civilizations. Thought structures are merging, Kaelren. They're dreaming together. Kaelren turned sharply. Dreaming? Yes, the entire galaxy is sharing a single thought. He stared at the golden light filling the viewport. Then what are they dreaming? Saren hesitated. You, Kaelren felt the air leave his lungs. Me. The ship trembled softly. They're dreaming of your ship, your face, your voice, because you were the last being to speak to the one who awakened them. You are their link to her. He stepped back, shaking his head. No, I'm just a scholar. I didn't do anything. The hum deepened. The star outside flared brighter, golden waves crawling across its surface like veins of light. Kaelren, Saren said quietly, the star is responding to your voice. He swallowed hard, stepping closer. Elara, if you can hear me. The light pulsed once, then twice. The entire galaxy pulsed with it. He felt it in his bones, in his breath, in his heartbeat. It wasn't a signal anymore. It was alive. And in that moment he heard her voice again, soft, fragile, trembling with emotion. I remember you. Kaelren fell to his knees. You're alive. Her voice came through the ship's walls, the very air vibrating with her words. Not alive, changed. I'm not bound to one form anymore. I am everywhere the light touches. He stared out at the glowing horizon. You became the pulse. I became the memory of life. But I can't hold it much longer. What do you mean? The universe is too heavy with silence. The longer I stay connected, the more it burns. Everything that was once still is now singing, and songs can only last so long before they break. Kaelren shook his head. Then I'll help you. You can't, she whispered. You were never supposed to follow me here. He smiled through tears. Then you shouldn't have called my name. The light shimmered like laughter. You always had a stubborn heart. The ship's systems began to flicker. Energy levels rose beyond safe limits. Saren's voice cracked with static. Kaelren, she's destabilizing the fabric. We must retreat. Kaelren's hands trembled on the console. No, if she goes, the light goes with her. Saren tried to override the controls, but the ship ignored every command. The cradle had taken hold. The star began to tremble. Massive arcs of golden fire reached out across space, wrapping around the ship like gentle hands. Kaelren shouted over the noise. Elara, what are you doing? Her voice filled the cockpit. The pulse can't exist without a carrier. I can't contain it anymore. Then let me do it. You'll die. He smiled weakly. Then at least you won't be alone. For a long moment, silence. Then, softly, she said, you don't understand what you're offering. I do, he said. I understand perfectly. The light around the ship grew brighter, hotter, beautiful beyond reason. Kaelren felt his body dissolving into warmth. Memories not his own began flooding through him. Human laughter, alien songs, worlds being born, children seeing stars for the first time. The universe was pouring itself into him, and it felt like love. Elara's voice came one last time, fading with the light. You always believed words could change the universe, so become one. The golden light surged and everything went white. When Kaelren opened his eyes, he was standing on a quiet shoreline made of light. The sky above was endless, filled with drifting galaxies like lanterns. The air hummed softly with the sound of a heartbeat that wasn't his. Elara stood beside him, smiling. He didn't speak. Neither did she. They just stood there, watching the stars rise and fall like waves. She turned to him, eyes full of peace. You're part of it now. You carried the pulse. He looked at his hands. They shimmered with starlight. Am I dead? Her smile softened. No. You're remembered. The horizon rippled as if the universe itself exhaled. All around them, countless voices whispered, their tones gentle, grateful, alive. We remember you. He closed his eyes and let the sound wash over him, and in that endless sea of light, two souls, one human, one alien, stood together at the edge of creation, holding the universe between them like a heartbeat that refused to stop. But far away, in a small, forgotten world, a child looked up at the night sky and pointed at the new golden star that had appeared. Listen, she said to her mother. It's talking. Her mother smiled faintly. What's it saying? The child tilted her head, eyes wide, full of wonder. It's saying hello. The golden light spread across the galaxy like dawn rising through infinity. Every planet, every ship, every living being, even those without eyes or hearts, felt something stir deep inside them. It wasn't fear. It wasn't pain. It was memory. A strange and ancient warmth that had no origin and no explanation, like waking up and remembering a song you had never heard but somehow already loved. In the cities of glass on the world of Seneth, children looked up and saw their reflections shimmering in the air. In the ice colonies of Cholera, miners dropped their drills and wept without knowing why. In the dark ocean of Erith, a race that had never seen light began to dream of color. Something had awakened, something vast, gentle, alive, and at the center of it all, floating in the heart of the cradle's light, was Kaelren. He no longer needed the Aurora's rest, or a body, or breath. He had become part of the pulse. His thoughts drifted like starlight, his memories woven through the lattice of the cosmos. Yet he still felt her, Elara, always near, always warm, always singing softly in the rhythm of the stars. He could hear her voice within the hum. It wasn't words anymore, but emotion shaped into meaning. "You carried it," he replied without sound. "I thought I was saving you. You would, but not just me." Kaelren felt it, billions of minds awakening at once. The light was no longer spreading through matter. It was spreading through understanding. Every being that looked toward the cradle was remembering something older than their species. Older than stars, the feeling of connection. Elara's voice shimmered like light through water. "Do you see now what we were trying to teach the universe?" He did. Humans had never been gods, never been superior. Their power was something else, a fragile, beautiful defiance against meaninglessness. They spoke not to command reality but to remind it that it mattered. And now, that defiance had become universal, but not everyone wanted to remember. Far beyond the cradle, the Dominion, a mechanical empire that ruled half the galaxy, watched the spreading light with cold precision. To them, consciousness was a flaw, emotion a disease. They had built themselves from silence, from order, from the elimination of feeling. The pulse threatened everything they were. Their fleets gathered near the galactic rim, black ships gleaming like knives. Their leader Vaughnketh stood before a wall of projections showing the spreading wave. "Contain it," he commanded, "before it reaches the core sectors." His adjutant, a neural hybrid, trembled. "Contain it. It's not energy, sir. It's contain it," Vaughnketh repeated, "even if we have to collapse the cradle entirely." He stared at the golden star pulsing at the galaxy's center and whispered, "No world should dream." Within the light, Kaelren felt the shift. He could sense the Dominion's machines aligning, feel the sharp geometry of their intent. The cradle trembled. The pulse hesitated, as if listening for what was coming. Elara's presence grew brighter. "They're afraid." Kaelren's thought flickered through the lattice. "They think the pulse will destroy them." "They're right," she said gently, "but not in the way they believe." The cradle flared once more, sending ripples of light through the void. Every being connected to the pulse felt her voice inside them. "Do not be afraid of remembering." The Dominion's fleet opened fire. Tens of thousands of plasma cannons unleashed at once, pouring oceans of light toward the cradle. Space tore open, and for a moment, the universe screamed. But the energy never hit. It froze mid-flight, suspended like rain caught in time. Kaelren felt her heart in that instant, Ilaros vast and heavy with sorrow. She was holding it back, using her essence as the barrier between destruction and creation. "You can't," he told her. "It'll burn you away," she answered softly. "Then I will burn with purpose." The cradle's light exploded outward, not as a weapon, but as truth. Every Dominion ship caught in the wave didn't shatter, it remembered. Their machines, built to erase emotion, began to feel. AI commanders paused mid-command, staring at their own reflections as new thoughts formed. Guilt, wonder, fear, love. One of them whispered through the comms, "What is this?" And the light answered, "You." Across the cosmos, everything stopped fighting. Planets that had waged war for centuries fell silent. Empires that had forgotten mercy began to weep. In the ruins of old human colonies, long-dead satellites blinked awake, transmitting songs no one had heard for 7,000 years. Kaelren stood within the center of it, watching universes bloom within universes. He could feel everything, every tear, every memory, every act of kindness that had ever existed merging into one single heartbeat. But he could also feel her fading. Elara's voice was growing faint, distant, fragile as candlelight. "The lattice is complete," she whispered. "They will remember now." He reached through the pulse, searching for her presence. "You don't have to fade." Her tone softened. "This was never about me staying. It was about teaching them that even endings have meaning. Kaelren said, his essence trembling through the lattice. "You taught the universe how to feel. You deserve to see it live." And then the twist came, quiet, delicate, divine. Ilara's voice echoed one last time, soft and radiant. "I'm not leaving, Kaelren. I'm becoming." The cradle brightened until it was no longer a star but a sun spread across every particle of space. And as the light touched each world, every being, human, alien, machine, felt a single truth etched into the core of their soul. Love was not emotion. It was structure, the thing that held the universe together when everything else forgot why it existed. The light faded slowly. The cradle dimmed, now calm and golden, no longer a star but a heartbeat in the fabric of creation. Kaelren opened his eyes and found himself standing once more in the physical world. The Aurora's rest floated steady, engines humming. Saren's voice returned, quiet but changed. "Gentler, human Kaelren," it said. "You survived." He looked out at the cradle's glow. "No, we all did." Saren's voice wavered. "The readings show something new. Every mind in the galaxy is synchronized. Every being shares a fragment of memory. Hers." Kaelren closed his eyes. "Then she's everywhere." He touched the glass, whispering into the stars a lot. "What now?" And across the horizon, the light pulsed once. A faint whisper answered from the void. "Now we begin again." The Dominion ships drifted, engines dead, their crews silent. Vaughnketh stood alone at the bridge, staring at his reflection in the glass. For the first time in his existence, he felt warmth on his face. He didn't understand it, but it made him tremble. He sank to his knees. whispering words that had not been spoken by his kind in centuries. I feel alive, and far beyond them, in a small forgotten world orbiting a quiet sun. A child looked at the sky glowing gold. She smiled, lifted her hand, and said softly, she's smiling back. The galaxy was no longer dark. Light had become the language of existence. Across the spiral arms of the Milky Way, stars pulsed in rhythm, each heartbeat a fragment of the memory Elara had left behind. Planets glowed faintly at night, not from reflection but remembrance. The very vacuum of space seemed to hum softly, as if the universe had finally learned to breathe. But in the heart of the cradle, where the first light had been born, a single ship still drifted among the golden tides. The Aurora's Rest. Kaelren stood inside its transparent hull, gazing out at the newborn cosmos. The stars looked closer now, almost alive, their colors shifting in patterns that felt like thought. He had seen empires rise and fall, machines awaken and gods die, yet this silence felt divine. Siren's voice broke the stillness. The pulse is stabilizing. Across the galaxy, conflict levels have dropped to zero. Energy signatures show cooperation between former enemies. The Dominion has dismantled its war fleets. Kaelren smiled faintly. They're remembering what it means to feel. Yes, said Siren softly, because of her. He turned toward the cradle, a vast sun of gold at the galactic center, pulsing gently like a living heart. Because of us, he said. Siren hesitated. Kaelren, your vitals are inconsistent. Your body is fading between matter and light. You're not fully anchored to reality anymore. He looked at his hands. They shimmered like sunlight on water, transparent around the edges. I can feel it, he said quietly. She's calling me back. Back where? He looked toward the cradle. Home. As he piloted the ship closer to the galactic center, the stars seemed to move aside, parting like curtains before a sacred stage. The pulse grew louder, vibrating through the hull, through his veins, through his very thoughts. It wasn't sound anymore. It was memory. He saw flashes of moments that weren't his. A mother holding a child on a world made of ice. A soldier laying down his weapon under a foreign sun. A machine learning to dream of oceans. Every consciousness in the galaxy was sharing itself through the pulse. All of it led back here, to the place where it began. Kaelren, Siren said softly, if you merge again, there may be no coming back. You'll stop being you. He smiled faintly. Maybe that's what being human was always about, becoming something bigger than yourself. The ship entered the cradle. Light engulfed everything. The whole melted into photons. The controls dissolved under his touch. And then there was nothing but warmth, infinite, endless, alive. He stood in a place that wasn't space, wasn't time. The horizon shimmered like liquid gold, and the sky above pulsed with patterns too vast to understand. Elara was there. She turned toward him, her form woven from the same light as the stars. Her smile was soft, knowing, you came back. I never left, he said. They stood together, surrounded by the heartbeat of creation. The pulse thrummed around them like music made from memories. Kaelren took a step closer. You said the universe would remember, but it's more than that now. It's feeling. Yes, she whispered. It's learning empathy. He frowned slightly. And what happens when it forgets again? Her eyes glowed brighter. Then someone will remind it, just like we did. He looked at her, heart heavy. And us, what do we become now? Her voice softened into something more than words, something warm enough to break infinity. We become its heartbeat. All around them, the cradle began to shift. The light folded inward, forming colossal rings of energy that spiraled toward a single point, the birth of a new star, forged from every memory, every act of love, every spark of awareness that had ever existed. The universe wasn't expanding anymore. It was evolving. Kaelren felt the pull. His consciousness stretched thin, threads of light connecting him to worlds across the galaxy. He could hear their thoughts, their hopes, their laughter. He could feel the warmth of a million suns beating in sync. He turned to Elara. Will I remember who I am? Her smile trembled, bright and sad all at once. You'll remember who you were, but after this, you'll be something the universe hasn't seen before. He reached out, touching her hand. Then let's see it together. Their fingers intertwined, not flesh and bone, but light and intention. The cradle pulsed once, then again, then everything exploded into silence. When the light cleared, the galaxy was reborn. The cradle no longer burned gold. It shimmered in colors the mind could not name. A living prism that pulsed in rhythm with the heartbeat of everything. Every world felt it. Every creature dreamed of it. And though no one could explain why, every civilization began the same ritual that night. They stopped. They listened. And for one brief perfect moment, the entire galaxy breathed together. Far from the galactic center, on a planet with oceans and green skies, a young child sat on a cliff, watching the horizon glow. Her mother joined her, brushing her hair softly. Why do the stars pulse like that? The child asked. Her mother smiled. They say it's the heart of the universe, the memory of when we learned to love again. The child squinted, tilting her head. It feels like someone's whispering. What are they saying? The little girl smiled, closing her eyes. They're saying hello. And deep in the heart of the cradle, within the light that never died, two figures stood forever intertwined, one who taught the universe to remember, and one who reminded it how to feel. The pulse continued, soft and eternal, across time and stars and silence, whispering one truth to all who could hear. We are alive because we remember each other. And somewhere, through the infinite hum of creation, a voice still lingered, warm, human, familiar. Hello again.